The crystal towers of Zephyria Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the largest tower, 12 different alien species sat around a massive circular table made of polished black stone. Each representative looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few had skin that changed colors as they spoke. High Counselor Vexithara stood at the center of the room. Her people, the Zelanti, were tall and thin with silver skin that reflected the room's blue lights. She had ruled the Galactic Hegemony Council for over 50 Earth years, and no one had ever questioned her decisions before today. "We have a problem," she announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. "A new species has been discovered, and they are dangerous." Counselor Theiss of the Reptilian Dominion leaned forward. His green scales caught the light as he moved. "How dangerous can they be? Our scouts said their technology is hundreds of years behind ours." Vexithara activated a holographic display in the center of the table. The image showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. "This is Earth. 3 weeks ago, one of their ships encountered our patrol vessel in the outer rim." The hologram changed to show recordings from the encounter. A crude metal ship, clearly built by hands rather than advanced manufacturing systems, faced off against a sleek hegemony patrol craft. The human ship had no energy shields and used primitive projectile weapons instead of plasma cannons. "Watch what happens next," Vexithara said. The human ship moved in ways that made no sense. Instead of following standard combat formations, it darted around randomly. The pilot seemed to ignore all logical tactical patterns. When the hegemony ship tried to predict its movements, the human vessel would suddenly change direction for no apparent reason. Then the human ship did something that shocked everyone watching. It fired a simple metal projectile at exactly the right moment to hit the patrol craft's engine exhaust. The shot was impossible to calculate using standard targeting computers, yet the human pilot had made it perfectly. "The patrol ship was damaged and forced to retreat," Vexithara continued. "Our commander reported that the human tactics made no logical sense, yet they were somehow effective." Counselor Mordek of the Silicon Federation spoke in his grinding voice. "Perhaps it was luck. One lucky shot does not make them a threat." "That is what I thought at first," Vexithara replied. "But our intelligence teams have been studying this species for weeks now. What they found troubles me greatly." The hologram changed again, showing images of human cities, factories, and military bases. The technology looked primitive compared to galactic standards, but something else caught the Council's attention. The humans were everywhere on their planet, and they were building new things constantly. "Look at their population growth," Theiss said, reading from his datapad. "They have gone from 1 billion to 8 billion in just 200 of their years. That is faster than any species we know." "And look at their military conflicts," added Counselor Zekma of the Insectoid Collective. Her compound eyes reflected dozens of images as she spoke. "They have been fighting wars continuously for their entire recorded history. They never stopped developing new weapons." Vexithara nodded grimly. "Exactly my point. This species shows all the signs of what we call a viral civilization. They reproduce quickly, expand aggressively, and adapt their technology through constant warfare. If we allow them to develop further, they will eventually threaten the stability of our entire galaxy." The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the history of viral species. 3,000 years ago, the Draconis Empire had shown similar traits. By the time the council decided to act, the Draconis had spread to over 50 star systems and nearly destroyed galactic civilization in the wars that followed. "What do our scouts tell us about their current military capabilities?" asked Counselor Feltar of the Aquatic Union. Theiss consulted his reports. "They have approximately 40 space-capable military vessels, all using chemical propulsion. No energy weapons, no shields, no faster-than-light travel. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles and kinetic projectiles." 40 ships, Mordek repeated. Our 7th Fleet alone has 200 vessels, each one more advanced than anything these humans have ever built. Then the solution is obvious, Vexithara declared. We must act now, before they have time to develop further. I propose immediate, military intervention to subjugate this species before they become a true threat. The debate that followed was brief but heated. Some counselors argued for peaceful contact, suggesting that humans might be reasoned with or contained through diplomatic means. Others worried about the precedent of attacking a species that had not yet threatened anyone. Counselor Yavsin of the Ethereal Collective spoke in her whisper-like voice. Perhaps we should study them more. Their unpredictable thinking patterns might have value if properly controlled. Absolutely not, Vexthara responded firmly. Every day we delay gives them more time to advance their technology. The encounter with our patrol ship proves they are already capable of tactical innovation. We cannot risk allowing them to develop further. She activated another holographic display, this one showing historical records of past viral species. The Draconis started with primitive technology too. Within 50 years, they had reverse-engineered our weapons and improved upon them. Within 100 years, they nearly conquered half the galaxy. The weight of history pressed down on the Yamir Council chamber. No one wanted to repeat the mistakes that had led to the Draconis War. The final vote was called, and the result was decisive. 9 species voted for military action, while only 3 voted against. The motion passes, Vexithara announced. Fleet Commander Zarketh will receive orders to deploy the 7th Expeditionary Fleet immediately. The humans will be given one chance to surrender. If they refuse, their military capabilities will be destroyed and their planet will be occupied. Meanwhile, billions of light years away, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDF Vanguard as it entered Earth's solar system. His ship had been on a routine patrol mission when they encountered the alien vessel. Now he carried news. That would change everything. Morrison was a career military officer, 45 years old with gray starting to show in his brown hair. He had served in 3 different wars on Earth, and he understood how quickly peaceful situations could turn deadly. The alien encounter had taught him that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors might not be friendly. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Command, reported Lieutenant Lisa Parker from the communications station. She was young, only 26, but she had managed to record and partially decode some of the alien transmissions during their encounter. Put them through, Morrison ordered. General Robert Hill appeared on the main screen. The general's weathered face showed the strain of his position as head of the Global Defense Initiative. Admiral Morrison, your preliminary report has caused quite a stir here. How certain are you about the hostile intent of this alien contact? Morrison chose his words carefully. Sir, their ship was armed with weapons far beyond our current technology. They scanned our vessel thoroughly and showed no interest in communication. When we attempted to withdraw, they moved to an attack position. If we hadn't acted first, I believe they would have destroyed us. And you managed to damage their ship with conventional weapons? Yes, sir, but barely. We got lucky with a single kinetic round that hit their engine output at exactly the right moment. Their shields had no effect against solid projectiles, but their energy weapons could have vaporized us easily if they had hit. Hill's expression grew more serious. Dr. Karen White's team has been analyzing the energy signatures you recorded. She says their technology is at least 200 years ahead of ours, possibly more. That matches my assessment, sir. However, their tactical responses were predictable. They seem to rely heavily on automated systems and standard formations. When we acted unpredictably, they had trouble adapting. Interesting, Hill mused. How long do you estimate before they return with reinforcements? Morrison looked at the data Parker had collected. Based on their transmission patterns and the time they took to analyze our ship, I'd guess they'll want to report back to their superiors before taking further action. We might have a few weeks, maybe a month if we're lucky. Then we need to use that time wisely. Hill said. "I'm calling an emergency session with President Helen Carter and the Global Defense Council. We need to prepare for the possibility of invasion." As the transmission ended, Morrison stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien minds were making decisions about Earth's future. He had a feeling that humanity's greatest test was about to begin. Chief Engineer Paul Davis approached from the rear of the bridge. He was carrying a data pad filled with sensor readings from their encounter. "Admiral, I've been going over the scans of their ship. Their energy systems are incredibly advanced, but I think I see some weaknesses we might be able to exploit." "What kind of weaknesses?" "They seem to over-engineer everything. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but they barely react to physical projectiles. Their targeting systems are incredibly precise, but they seem to assume their targets will behave logically." Morrison nodded slowly. "Keep working on that analysis, Paul." Something to Fleet Commander Zarketh stood in the command center of his flagship, the Void Sovereign. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 200 hegemony warships as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. The blue and white planet hung in space ahead of them, like a target waiting to be claimed. Zarketh was a veteran commander from the Nexari species, with dark blue skin marked by ritual scars that showed his many victories. He had conquered 17 worlds for the hegemony and never faced serious resistance. This mission should have been the easiest of his career. "All ships report ready for combat operations," announced his tactical officer. "Sensors show the planet's orbital space has significantly more activity than our scout reports indicated." Zarketh frowned as he studied the sensor data. Where the scouts had reported empty space around Earth, now dozens of artificial structures orbited the planet. Space stations, weapons platforms, and manufacturing facilities that had not existed during the initial reconnaissance. "How long since our last intelligence update?" he asked. 43 standard days, Commander." "Impossible. No species can build that much infrastructure in such a short time." But the evidence was right in front of him. Somehow the humans had managed to construct an entire orbital defense network in less than 2 months. Zarketh had seen advanced civilizations take years to build similar installations. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet's arrival from the bridge of his new flagship, the EDF Liberty. The ship was larger than the Vanguard and incorporated every improvement that human engineers could manage in their short preparation time. Around him, his crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were facing impossible odds. "Enemy fleet count confirmed at 200 vessels," reported Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez from the tactical station. Morrison had promoted Martinez after recognizing his gift for reading enemy formations and predicting their movements. "They're maintaining standard approach formation, exactly like the tactical manuals we captured would predict." Morrison nodded. The month of preparation time had been used well. Chief Engineer Paul Davis had managed to reverse engineer key technologies from the wreckage of alien probes that had been sent to study Earth. More importantly, Dr. Karen White's research teams had discovered something unexpected about human neural patterns compared to known alien species. "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" Morrison asked. 37 vessels of various classes," replied Captain Beth Williams from her position at the Fleet Coordination Station. She had been promoted to command the destroyer EDF Falcon after showing exceptional skill in the new tactical doctrines they had developed. The human fleet was tiny compared to what they faced, but each ship had been modified based on everything. They had learned about alien technology and tactics. The orbital defense platforms were mostly decoys, designed to make the aliens think Earth's defenses were stronger than they actually were. "Incoming transmission from the alien fleet," announced Commander Lisa Parker from Communications. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." Morrison had expected this. "Put them through." The main screen showed Fleet Commander Zarketh standing in what was obviously an advanced command center. The alien's appearance was intimidating, but Morrison noticed something important in his posture and expression. This was a being accustomed to easy victories who expected humans to surrender immediately. "I am Fleet Commander Zarketh of the Galactic HFY," the alien announced. "Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. Surrender now and your planet will be occupied peacefully. Resist, and your cities will be destroyed." Morrison stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. This is our home, and we will defend it." Zarketh's expression showed surprise and annoyance. "You cannot seriously intend to fight. Your primitive vessels are no match for hegemony technology. I offer you one final chance to avoid unnecessary destruction." "We appreciate the offer," Morrison replied calmly, "but our answer remains the same." The transmission ended, and Zarketh immediately ordered his fleet to assume attack formation. He had dealt with stubborn primitives before, and a demonstration of superior firepower usually convinced them to see reason quickly. "All ships, target the orbital installations," he commanded. "Full plasma barrage. We will show them the futility of resistance." The hegemony fleet opened fire with coordinated precision. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked across space toward Earth's orbital defenses. The energy weapons were designed to vaporize any known material, and Zarketh expected to see the human installations disappear in brilliant explosions. Instead, many of the plasma bolts passed harmlessly through empty space where sensors had indicated solid targets. The few installations that were actually hit exploded in showers of metal debris, but they were obviously decoys made of cheap materials rather than real weapons platforms. "Sir, our targeting systems are showing massive sensor ghost readings," reported the tactical officer. "Most of the installations we detected appear to be false signatures." Before Zarketh could respond, proximity alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. The human ships, which had been holding position near Earth's moon, suddenly scattered in all directions using flight patterns that made no logical sense. Captain Beth Williams led the first attack wave in the EDF Falcon. Her ship and 5 others accelerated toward the alien fleet using chemical rockets that barely registered on alien sensors as propulsion systems. The hegemony ships, designed to track high-energy drives, had trouble maintaining target locks on the primitive human vessels. "Firing solution locked," announced her weapons officer. "Target is the 3rd cruiser in their left formation." "Fire. All kinetic penetrators," Williams ordered. The Falcon's main weapons were mass drivers that accelerated dense tungsten projectiles to significant fractions of light speed using magnetic coils. The projectiles were simple chunks of metal with no guidance systems or electronics, but they carried enormous kinetic energy. The first tungsten round hit the alien cruiser's forward shield array at precisely the moment when the shield generators were cycling between defensive frequencies. Dr. White's analysis had revealed that alien shields operated on predictable patterns that created brief windows of vulnerability. The projectile punched through the shield like it was not there and buried itself deep in the cruiser's hull. Secondary explosions rippled through the alien ship as the kinetic energy transfer tore apart internal systems designed to handle energy weapons rather than physical impacts. Across the battlefield, similar attacks were taking place. Human ships used seemingly random flight patterns that were actually based on complex mathematical models developed by Dr. White's team. The patterns appeared chaotic to alien sensors and targeting computers, but they were designed to bring human weapons into position at exactly the right moments. Commander Lisa Parker coordinated electronic warfare from the Liberty Signals Intelligence Center. Her team had learned to exploit the aliens' reliance on automated systems by broadcasting false sensor data and jamming signals at critical moments. When alien ships tried to communicate with each other, human interference made coordination difficult. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez watched the battle develop from his tactical station and saw exactly what he had hoped to see. The alien fleet was responding according to standard protocols, trying to use formation tactics designed for fighting other energy weapon-equipped fleets. Against human kinetic weapons and unpredictable movement patterns, their doctrine was proving ineffective. "Enemy formation is breaking down," Martinez reported. "They're having trouble maintaining coordination while adapting to our attack patterns." Admiral Morrison saw his opening. "All ships, execute pattern Delta 7. Target their command vessels." The human fleet suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of the hit-and-run attacks they had been using, the ships formed into small groups and began coordinated assaults on specific alien vessels. The pattern looked random to alien observers, but it was designed to overwhelm individual enemy. Ships with concentrated firepower while avoiding the aliens' attempts to surround and destroy human forces. Fleet Commander Zarketh watched in growing alarm as his fleet took casualties that should have been impossible. 12 of his ships had been destroyed or severely damaged, while the primitive human vessels continued to dart around his formation like insects that could not be swatted. "How are they penetrating our shields?" he demanded. "Their weapons are purely kinetic, sir," his science officer replied. "Our defensive systems were not designed to stop solid projectiles at these velocities." "Then adjust shield frequencies to deflect physical objects." "Sir, that will leave us vulnerable to energy."
Weapons.
"They don't have energy weapons." "Yes, sir, but our own ships do. If we modify our shields, we risk friendly fire incidents." Zarketh realized he was facing a tactical situation that hegemony military doctrine had never considered. The humans were using primitive technology in ways that exploited weaknesses in advanced systems. Their unpredictable tactics made it impossible to coordinate effective responses using standard fleet procedures. Chief Engineer Paul Davis Hay. The crystal chambers of Zephyria Prime had never seen such chaos. High Counselor Vexithera stood before the holographic display showing Fleet Commander Zarketh's battle report, her silver skin reflecting the angry red lights that now filled the room. Around her, 12 species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years struggled to understand how their most powerful fleet had been defeated by primitive humans. "This is impossible," declared Counselor Thias, his green scales darkening with stress. 62 ships destroyed by creatures who still use chemical rockets? Zarketh's image flickered as he transmitted from his damaged flagship. The proud commander who had departed Zephyria Prime with absolute confidence now looked like a broken warrior reporting the unthinkable. "The humans fight like nothing we have encountered before," he explained. "They ignore all logical tactical doctrine. Their ships move in patterns that make no sense, yet somehow they coordinate perfectly. Our targeting systems could not predict their movements." "What about their weapons?" asked Counselor Mordek. "Our intelligence said they only had primitive projectiles. They do use projectiles, but fired at velocities that our shields cannot deflect. More importantly, they seem to understand our technology better than we expected. They hit exactly the right spots to cause maximum damage with minimum effort." Vexithera's anger was visible to everyone in the chamber. She had ruled the hegemony for decades by making quick, decisive choices that always resulted in victory. The concept of defeat by an inferior species challenged everything she believed about galactic order. "How many ships do they have left?" she demanded. "Perhaps 20 vessels capable of combat," Zarketh replied. "But, Counselor, I must warn you that underestimating them again would be a mistake. These humans adapt faster than any species I have seen." "Enough!" Vexithara's voice echoed through the chamber. "I will not accept that the greatest military force in galactic history has been humiliated by a single backward planet. Mobilize the 2nd, 4th, and 9th fleets immediately." The council chamber fell silent. Mobilizing 3 full battle fleets meant deploying nearly 800 warships, the largest military operation in recent galactic history. Several counselors exchanged worried glances, wondering if such massive force was necessary against one small planet. Counselor Yavsin of the Ethereal Collective spoke in her whisper-like voice. "Perhaps we should consider diplomatic solutions. If these humans are truly as adaptable as they appear, they might be valuable allies rather than enemies. Absolutely not, Vexithara replied sharply. They have humiliated the hegemony and proven themselves to be exactly the kind of viral species we exist to contain. This ends now, with overwhelming force that leaves no possibility of further resistance. On Earth, President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly addressing representatives from every nation on the planet. The alien attack had done something that decades of diplomacy had failed to achieve. It had united humanity against a common external threat. The aliens have shown us their true intentions, Carter declared. They came to our world not as explorers or diplomats, but as conquerors. They expected us to surrender without a fight. And they learned how wrong they were. The assembly hall erupted in applause, but Carter raised her hand for silence. She knew the victory celebration was premature. However, we must be realistic about what comes next. Intelligence reports suggest that what we faced was only a small portion of their total military capability. They will return with more ships and better preparation. General Robert Hill stepped to the podium as Carter moved aside. The grizzled military commander's expression was grim as he presented the latest intelligence analysis. Our captured alien. Technology has given us significant insights into their capabilities, Hill explained. The good news is that we've confirmed their main weaknesses. Their over-reliance on energy shields and predictable tactics makes them vulnerable to our kinetic weapons and flexible strategies. He activated a holographic display showing the orbital construction projects that had been ongoing since the first battle. The challenging news is the scale of what we're facing. Conservative estimates suggest they have access to thousands of warships. Even if we can maintain our tactical advantages, we simply don't have enough ships to defend against massive numbers. Dr. Karen White rose from her seat in the scientific advisory section. Her research into alien technology and human neural patterns had been crucial to the first victory, and everyone in the assembly knew her next words would be important. We've made significant breakthroughs in reverse engineering alien technology, she announced. Chief Engineer Paul Davis and his teams have successfully replicated their faster-than-light drives and improved upon their energy systems. A murmur of excitement ran through the assembly. Faster-than-light travel would change everything for humanity. More importantly, we've discovered that human intuitive thinking allows us to see improvements in alien technology that their own designers missed. Their logical, systematic approach to engineering creates blind spots that human creativity can exploit. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the back of the assembly hall, listening to the briefings while his mind worked on tactical problems. The first battle had taught him valuable lessons about alien psychology and military doctrine, but he knew their enemies would adapt too. "Dr. White," he called out, "what's your assessment of our technological development timeline?" "We can have functional faster-than-light capable ships within 6 weeks," she replied. "But Admiral, I think you're asking the wrong question." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "The question isn't whether we can build ships fast enough to match their numbers. The question is whether we should try to fight a defensive war at all." The assembly hall fell silent as the implications of her statement sank in. Dr. White continued with the confidence of someone who had spent weeks analyzing alien psychology and strategy. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force against stationary targets. They bring massive fleets to destroy planets that cannot run away. But what if we don't stay in one place to be destroyed? General Hill immediately understood where she was going. "You're suggesting we take the war to them." "Exactly. Human ships are smaller and more maneuverable than theirs. Our crews adapt faster than theirs do. Instead of waiting for them to attack Earth with unstoppable numbers, we should be attacking their supply lines and support infrastructure." Admiral Morrison felt a cold smile cross his face. The idea was audacious beyond belief, but it made perfect sense from a tactical standpoint. Instead of trying to defend against superior numbers, Humanity could use mobility and unpredictability to strike where their enemies were weakest. It would be incredibly dangerous, he said. We'd be taking the fight into alien territory with no support and no retreat options. But we'd also be fighting on our terms instead of theirs, Dr. White replied. Every battle we fight near Earth gives them more opportunities to study our tactics and adapt. But if we're attacking them across multiple star systems simultaneously, they can't concentrate their forces effectively. President Carter looked around the assembly hall, reading the expressions of world leaders who had never imagined their species would be planning interstellar military campaigns. This is a decision that could determine the survival of our entire species, she said quietly. If we succeed, we might secure Earth's independence permanently. If we fail, there won't be anyone left to mount another defense. The vote was called, and the result was unanimous. Humanity would take the war to their enemies. 3 weeks later, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDF Nemesis, the first human starship capable of faster-than-light travel. Around him, his crew prepared for a mission that would have been pure science fiction just months earlier. Captain Beth Williams commanded the ship's tactical systems from her position near the weapons console. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez coordinated with other ships in the small fleet through quantum-encrypted communications that Chief Engineer Paul Davis had developed. Commander Lisa Parker led the electronic warfare team that would be crucial to their survival in alien territory. All ships report ready for departure, Williams announced. 36 vessels total, all equipped with hybrid human-alien technology. Dr. White, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, reviewed the target list one final time. Human intelligence had identified 12 critical hegemony supply bases and shipyard facilities within striking range. The plan was to hit them, all simultaneously, causing maximum disruption to alien operations. Remember, our goal is not to hold territory, Morrison addressed his crew. We strike hard, cause as much damage as possible, and withdraw before they can coordinate a response. We're not trying to win a conventional war. We're trying to convince them that the cost of conquering Earth is higher than they're willing to pay. The first target was a massive supply depot in the Kepler system, 300 light-years from Earth. Intelligence suggested it was lightly defended because the hegemony had never faced attacks on their core infrastructure. As the human fleet prepared to depart, Morrison received a final transmission from Earth. President Carter appeared on the main screen, her expressions serious but determined. Admiral, the entire world is counting on you and your crews. You're carrying humanity's hop. The Kepler supply depot had stood for over 2,000 years as a monument to hegemony engineering. Massive orbital platforms processed raw materials from 12 star systems, feeding the war machine that kept the galaxy under control. The facility's administrators had never seen combat and never expected to face attack in the heart of civilized space. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the depot grow larger on his main screen as the EDF Nemesis approached at sublight speed. His small fleet of 36 ships had successfully traveled 300 light-years without detection, using routes through empty space that avoided all known patrol areas. Target analysis complete, reported Captain Beth Williams from her tactical station. The depot has minimal defensive systems. Looks like they rely on the assumption that no one would dare attack them here. That assumption is about to cost them, Morrison replied grimly. Dr. White, what's your assessment of their critical systems? Dr. Karen White studied the sensor readings from her science station. The months of analyzing alien technology had taught her to see weaknesses that the original designers never considered. The entire facility depends on 3 main power cores located in the central hub, she explained. If we can disable those cores, the whole depot shuts down. More importantly, they have no backup systems because they never imagined needing them. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez coordinated the attack plan from his position near the communications array. Human forces Alpha through Delta are in position around the depot's perimeter. Electronic warfare teams report ready to jam their distress signals. Commander Lisa Parker's team had been studying alien communication protocols for weeks. learning how to disrupt their networks without triggering automatic alarms. Her work would be crucial to maintaining the element of surprise. Jamming systems. Activated, Parker announced. The depot is now isolated from external communications. Morrison took a deep breath and gave the order that would announce humanity's presence as an offensive force in galactic politics. All units, commence Operation Lightning Strike. The human fleet attacked from 4 directions simultaneously, using the same unpredictable movement patterns that had proven so effective in Earth's defense. Alien sensors, designed to track large formations of energy-equipped warships, had trouble maintaining locks on the smaller human vessels as they darted between the depot's defensive installations. Captain John Lewis, commanding the destroyer, EDF Retribution, led the main assault on the depot's central hub. His ship's kinetic weapons had been upgraded with targeting systems based on alien technology, but guided by human intuition rather than pure logic. Firing solution locked on target. Alpha, his weapons officer announced. All kinetic penetrators ready. Fire, Lewis ordered. Dense tungsten projectiles, accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, slammed into the depot's first power core with devastating effect. The alien engineers had designed the core to withstand energy weapon attacks and cosmic radiation, but they had never considered the possibility of high-velocity physical impacts. The explosion that followed lit up space like a small star. Secondary detonations rippled through the depot's structure as power conduits overloaded and backup systems failed. Within minutes, the facility that had taken decades to build was reduced to drifting wreckage. Similar attacks were taking place across the galaxy as human strike teams hit 12 different targets simultaneously. The strategy that Dr. White had proposed was working perfectly. Instead of trying to match alien numbers, humanity was using speed and unpredictability to strike where their enemies were weakest. At the Vega shipyards, Captain Sandra Davis led her squadron in an attack that destroyed half-completed warships before they could be launched. The yards had been building vessels for the massive fleet heading toward Earth, and their destruction would significantly reduce the aliens' offensive capability. In the Centauri system, Commander Mike Wilson's team disabled a major communication relay that coordinated military movements across 3 sectors. Without real-time communications, alien commanders would have to rely on slower, less secure methods to coordinate their operations. The psychological impact of the attacks spread faster than the physical damage. For the first time in galactic history, the hegemony's core infrastructure was under attack by an enemy that could strike anywhere without warning. High Counselor Vexithara received the first reports while reviewing final preparations for the massive assault on Earth. The news that 12 critical facilities had been attacked simultaneously seemed impossible to believe. How did primitive humans manage to coordinate attacks across such vast distances? She demanded of her intelligence advisors. "We don't know, Counselor," replied her chief analyst. "Our latest intelligence suggested they had no faster-than-light capabilities. These attacks proved that assessment was completely wrong." Vexithara studied the tactical displays, showing the locations of the human strikes. The pattern revealed strategic thinking that impressed and alarmed her. The humans had not attacked random targets. They had carefully selected installations that would cause maximum disruption to military operations. "What is the status of our fleets approaching Earth?" she asked. "Still on schedule, Counselor, but the supply line disruptions may affect our ability to maintain extended operations in the Sol system." Vexithara realized that the humans had fundamentally changed the nature of the conflict. Instead of a simple conquest of a single planet, she was now facing a military campaign against an enemy that could strike anywhere in hegemony space. "Recall all patrol fleets to defensive positions around our core worlds," she ordered, "and send orders to Commanders Velthak and Mordis. Their fleets will continue to Earth as planned. But they must be prepared for human forces to attack our home systems while they are away." The decision to divide her forces was exactly what Admiral Morrison had hoped for. Each hegemony ship assigned To defend their home worlds was one less ship available to attack Earth. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter received reports of the successful raids with mixed emotions. The tactical victories were encouraging, but she knew they had also escalated the conflict to a level where peaceful resolution might no longer be possible. General Robert Hill briefed her on the latest intelligence from the returning strike teams. "The raids exceeded our best-case projections," he reported. "We've disrupted their supply lines, destroyed significant military assets, and forced them to redeploy defensive forces." "What about casualties?" Carter asked. "Light. We lost 3 ships total across all 12 operations. The aliens never expected attacks on their core infrastructure, so most facilities were lightly defended." Dr. White entered the briefing room carrying data pads filled with technical information recovered from the raids. "Madam President, we've obtained detailed intelligence about their military capabilities and strategic planning. This information will be invaluable for future operations." Carter looked out the window at the orbital shipyards, where new human vessels were under construction. The sight should have been encouraging, but she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was racing toward a confrontation that would determine their species' survival. "How long before their main fleets reach Earth?" she asked. "Approximately 2 weeks," Hill replied. "But Admiral Morrison's raids have bought us something more valuable than time. They've proven that we can take the fight to the enemy instead of just defending our home." The strategic implications were enormous. Instead of waiting for overwhelming alien forces to arrive at Earth, humanity could continue launching offensive operations that forced their enemies to fight on multiple fronts. Simultaneously, Chief Engineer Paul Davis joined the briefing via holographic projection from the orbital shipyards. His teams had been working around the clock to incorporate captured alien technology into new human vessels. "We're making incredible progress," Davis reported. "The technology we captured during the raids has allowed us to improve our faster-than-light drives by at least 300%. More importantly, we're learning to combine human engineering intuition with alien manufacturing techniques." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Carter asked. "It means our ships are becoming more advanced than anything in the alien fleet," Dr. White explained. "They build everything according to logical specifications that prioritize predictable performance. We're building ships that prioritize adaptability and unexpected capabilities." The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. The species that the aliens had dismissed as primitive was now producing technology that surpassed their own through the application of human creativity to alien engineering principles. Admiral Morrison's fleet returned to Earth space after completing their raids, but their mission was far from over. Intelligence gathered during the attacks had revealed the locations of major hegemony military bases and the routes being used by the incoming invasion fleets. "We have a choice to make," Morrison announced during the strategic planning session. "We can prepare for a defensive battle here at Earth, or we can intercept their fleets before they arrive." The room fell silent as military leaders and government officials considered the implications. Intercepting the alien fleets would mean taking the fight even. The crystal spires of Zephyria Prime flickered with emergency lighting as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. High Counselor Vexithara stood in the center of the Galactic Hegemony Council chamber, watching her empire crumble in real time. The holographic displays surrounding her showed the locations of human attacks happening simultaneously across dozens of star systems. "This is impossible," declared Counselor Thys, his green scales pale with shock. "How can one primitive species coordinate operations across such vast distances?" The latest reports were beyond anything the Council had imagined. Human fleets had intercepted and destroyed 2 of the 3 massive battle groups heading toward Earth. The 3rd fleet had turned back after receiving news of the other defeats, leaving the planned invasion of Earth in complete ruins. Commander Velthak appeared on the main communications screen, his image distorted by damage to his ship's transmission systems. The proud officer who had commanded 800 warships now spoke from the bridge of one of only 17 vessels that had survived the human ambush. "The humans knew exactly where to find us," he reported. They attacked while our ships were in transit formation, unable to coordinate defensive responses. Their weapons penetrated our shields as if they were not there. Vexithara's silver skin reflected the angry red emergency lights filling the chamber. How is that possible? Our shields are impenetrable to kinetic weapons. Not anymore, Counselor. They have modified their projectiles somehow. The humans seem to understand our technology better than we do. The truth was even more disturbing than Velthak realized. Dr. Karen White's research teams had discovered that alien engineers designed their systems using purely logical optimization, which created predictable weaknesses. Human intuitive thinking allowed them to see solutions that systematic alien minds could never consider. Chief Engineer Paul Davis had developed kinetic penetrators that changed their physical properties during flight, shifting from solid metal to plasma and back to solid, at precisely the right moments to bypass alien defenses. The technology combined human creativity with alien manufacturing capabilities to produce weapons that surpassed anything either species could build alone. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDF Nemesis as his fleet approached Zephyria, Prime itself. The decision to take the war directly to the hegemony capital had been the most controversial choice of the entire campaign. Many human leaders had argued that attacking the Council world would make peaceful resolution impossible. Morrison disagreed. He understood that the only way to ensure Earth's long-term safety was to convince the aliens that humanity represented a force they could not defeat or control. Half measures would only delay the next invasion attempt. Scanning the Zephyria. System now, reported Captain Beth Williams from her tactical station. Multiple orbital defense platforms, but their designs match the patterns we've learned to defeat. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Martinez studied the defensive arrangements with the eye of someone who had become expert at reading alien tactical thinking. They're using standard protection formations around the capital. Same weaknesses we've exploited before. Commander Lisa Parker's electronic warfare teams had evolved far beyond simple jamming operations. They now routinely invaded alien computer networks, turning defensive systems against each other and spreading chaos through enemy communications. I'm detecting massive communication traffic between the planet and outlying systems, Parker reported. It looks like they're trying to coordinate a final defense, but their command structure is breaking down. Dr. White monitored the approaching confrontation from her science station while simultaneously coordinating with research teams back on Earth. The months of warfare had provided incredible amounts of data about alien psychology, technology, and tactical doctrine. Admiral, I'm detecting activation of what appear to be ancient defense systems around Zephyria Prime, she announced. Energy signatures suggest technology far more advanced than anything we've encountered before. Morrison studied the sensor readings with growing concern. The weapons powering up around the alien capital showed energy levels that dwarfed anything in the current hegemony fleet. If these were functional weapons from the precursor civilization that had built the galaxy's infrastructure, they could pose a genuine threat to human forces. Analysis suggests these are automated systems left by the species that originally built the council chambers, White continued. They've been dormant for thousands of years, but the current crisis seems to have triggered their activation. On Zephyria Prime, Vexithara made a decision that would have horrified her predecessors. The ancient orbital weapons had been left untouched for millennia because previous councils had feared the power they represented. Now, facing the collapse of everything she had worked to build, she authorized their activation. Are you certain? These weapons will function after so long? Asked Counselor Mordek nervously. Our technicians believe they will, Vexithara replied. The precursor civilization built systems designed to last forever. If anything can stop these humans, it will be technology from the species that originally created galactic civilization, the Sao. Massive weapon platforms that surrounded Zephyria Prime began charging energy systems that had not been active since before most current species had developed space travel. The power levels they generated were visible to human sensors from several light minutes away. Admiral Morrison faced a decision that would determine not just the outcome of the battle, but the future relationship between humanity and galactic civilization. He could withdraw his forces and avoid a confrontation with weapons that might be powerful enough to destroy his entire fleet. Or he could press forward with an attack that might end the war permanently. "All ships, assume defensive formation Charlie 9, he ordered. "Dr. White, I need options for dealing with those ancient weapons." White's analysis of the precursor technology revealed the same weakness that plagued all alien systems: over-reliance on logical programming. The ancient weapons were incredibly powerful, but they operated according to predictable patterns that human creativity could potentially exploit. "The weapons are designed to track and destroy large fleets using conventional tactics," she explained. "But they're programmed to respond to logical threat assessments. If we can make ourselves appear less threatening while actually positioning for attack, we might be able to get close enough to disable them." The strategy that emerged was typically human in its apparent madness. Instead of approaching Zephyria Prime as a unified fleet, the human ships would scatter across the system and approach the planet from dozens of different directions, using flight patterns that would confuse the ancient targeting systems. Captain John Lewis, commanding the EDF Retribution, led one of the diversionary groups that drew fire from the precursor weapons while other human ships maneuvered into attack positions. The ancient energy beams were powerful enough to vaporize entire ships, but their targeting systems struggled to track human vessels that moved in ways that violated all known tactical doctrine. The breakthrough came when Commander Parker's electronic warfare teams managed to infiltrate the precursor weapon network. The ancient systems had been designed by logical minds that never imagined someone might try to hack them using intuitive pattern recognition rather than systematic code breaking. "I'm inside their targeting network," Parker announced. "These systems are incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly rigid. I can't shut them down, but I can confuse their target priority algorithms." Within minutes, the ancient weapons began firing at empty space while human ships passed undetected through their defensive perimeter. The precursor civilization's greatest defensive systems had been defeated by the same human creativity that had overcome every other alien advantage. The final assault on Zephyria Prime itself was swift and decisive. Human Marines, equipped with hybrid technology that combined alien engineering with human tactical innovation, stormed the council chambers while orbital bombardment disabled the planet's remaining defenses. High Counselor Vex Athara found herself face-to-face with Admiral Morrison in the same chamber where she had ordered Earth's destruction months earlier. The proud leader who had ruled the galaxy for decades now faced the representative of a species she had dismissed as primitive. "You have won," she said simply. "What are your terms?" Morrison looked around the chamber at the representatives of 12 species that had controlled galactic civilization for thousands of years. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity became another conquering empire or something entirely different. "Earth doesn't want to rule the galaxy," he said finally. "We want to explore it, trade with it, and learn from it. But we will never again tolerate threats to our independence or the independence of any other species." The terms that Morrison presented to the Council were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, humanity insisted on fundamental changes to how galactic civilization operated. The council system would be reformed to prevent any single species from authorizing the destruction of another. Trade and exploration would replace conquest and subjugation as the primary means of interaction between species.